You begin by doing very little at all. You lie still or sit quietly, and allow the noise of the day to loosen its grip. Your breathing finds a slower rhythm. In this gentle space, a question arrives without urgency. It does not demand an answer. It simply rests beside you. How close are things that seem far apart? At first, the question feels abstract, like a thought floating high above daily life. Yet as you breathe, it settles closer. You notice how distance usually feels obvious and solid. The floor beneath you feels near. The sky above feels far. People you love may feel close in memory, even when their bodies are distant. You are used to measuring the world this way with rulers, maps, and moments. But tonight, the universe invites you to soften that habit. It asks you to imagine that distance is not a wall, but a feeling, a sensation that can stretch or relax. Like time when you are calm, distance may behave differently than expected. You picture the night sky, vast and dark, sprinkled with quiet stars. Each point of light seems impossibly far away, and yet the light reaches you, travels patiently, sometimes for millions of years, until it arrives gently at your eyes. Already, distance has been crossed without drama. Already, far and near are less separate than they seem. As your thoughts slow, the universe feels less like a machine and more like a conversation. Not one spoken aloud, but one whispered through patterns. Planets move, atoms vibrate. Everything seems to respond to everything else, even if the response is delayed, softened, or subtle. You realize that science often begins this way. Not with answers, but with questions that feel small and personal. Someone somewhere once wondered why apples fall, or why the sky glows blue, or why heat flows from warm hands into cool air. Tonight, your question joins that long, quiet tradition. How close are things that seem far apart? The room around you feels still. Yet beneath that stillness, movement hums. Air molecules drift and bounce. Your heart moves blood in gentle waves. Electrical signals flicker through your nervous system like tiny lanterns. You are not separate from motion. You are made of it. The universe, too, is never truly still. Even in emptiness, something stirs. Space itself stretches and curves. Fields ripple softly, like invisible fabric stirred by a passing breeze. You do not need to see this to feel it. Your body already knows that stillness is often just slow motion. As sleep approaches, your mind becomes more receptive to metaphor. You imagine reality as a deep lake at night. On the surface, reflections shimmer and separate. Stars appear as distinct points, broken by gentle ripples. But beneath the surface, the water is continuous. There are no lines dividing one part from another. Everything touches everything else. This is where the question grows warmer. What if separation belongs mostly to the surface? What if, underneath, connection is the default state? You think of holding someone's hand. The warmth transfers without effort. Molecules in your skin vibrate faster, nudging their neighbors, passing energy along. No molecule knows the whole story. Each simply responds to the one beside it. And yet, warmth travels. Closeness emerges from countless tiny interactions. The universe may work this way too. Large patterns arising from small, patient relationships. You are not rushing toward quantum ideas yet. There is no need. The universe prefers that you arrive slowly. Tonight is about preparing the ground, loosening certainty, allowing wonder to feel safe. Like dimming the lights before sleep, you let sharp edges soften. You notice how your thoughts themselves behave. One thought leads to another, sometimes far removed in topic, yet connected by mood or memory. A childhood night, a question once asked, a feeling you cannot quite name. Distance in thought collapses easily. Your mind already understands what physics is still learning to describe. The universe seems to whisper that closeness is not always about proximity. It can be about relationship, about shared origin, about patterns that remember each other. You feel no pressure to understand this fully. Understanding can wait. Tonight is for sensing, for allowing the idea that reality may be more intimate than it appears, that things separated by space might still share something quiet and immediate. As your breathing deepens, You feel held by this thought rather than challenged by it. The question does not open a problem. It opens a doorway. Somewhere far beyond your room, particles drift through space. They form atoms, stars, and worlds. They follow rules, yes, but also relationships. They respond, correlate, echo. And though you are not yet naming it, a deeper form of connection is already present, waiting patiently for your attention. You rest with the idea that the universe is not cold or distant. It is subtle, speaks softly. It does not shout its secrets. It waits for minds willing to slow down enough to listen. The question returns, gentler now, like a lullaby repeating its final line. How close are things that seem far apart? You do not answer. You let the question breathe. You let it drift with you toward sleep. Somewhere in the darkness ahead, tiny footsteps are moving, quietly, patiently, ready to be noticed. You move deeper now, gently, without effort. The question from before fades into the background. Not gone, just resting. In its place, images begin to form. They are soft and incomplete, like shapes seen through closed eyelids. You are invited to meet the smallest residents of the universe, not as diagrams or dots on a page, but as quiet presences moving through darkness. Particles are often described as points, tiny beads of matter with exact locations. But tonight, that description loosens. Tonight, particles feel more like footsteps in the dark. You hear them rather than see them. You sense where they have been, where they might go, but never with full certainty. Imagine a dark room, wide and calm. Someone is walking slowly across it, barefoot. You do not see the person clearly. You notice only the faint sound of movement, the soft suggestion of position. Before one step lands, many possible steps exist. This is how particles behave. Not fixed, not rushed, but open. In the quantum world, particles do not hurry to decide where they are. They spread themselves gently into possibility. They exist as chances, as clouds of likelihood. Instead of saying, "I am here," they whisper, "I could be here or there or somewhere in between." This uncertainty is not a flaw. It is a feature. It allows the universe to remain flexible, creative, and calm. Certainty is sharp and final. Possibility is soft and forgiving. You feel comfort in this. The day has likely asked you to be precise, decisive, defined. But the universe, at its smallest scales, is none of those things. It is patient. It leaves room. You imagine a single particle drifting through space. Not flying, not falling. Just existing. Carries energy the way a note carries sound. It vibrates gently, interacting with fields you cannot see but can almost feel, like warmth in the air. These particles are not solid marbles. They are excitations, little ripples in deeper layers of reality. Like waves on the surface of a lake, they are expressions of something more continuous beneath. As you follow their movement, you notice something else. These particles are never truly alone. Even when separated by distance, they are influenced by surroundings. Fields overlap. Probabilities brush against each other. The universe feels less like a collection of objects and more like a slow dance. You may have learned that atoms are made of electrons circling nuclei. But tonight, that image softens too. Electrons do not orbit like planets. They exist in hazy regions, shells of possibility. They are present but not pinned down. They hum instead of march. This humming quality feels important. It suggests that reality is musical rather than mechanical. Notes fade in and out. Chords form. Silence matters as much as sound. You begin to sense that particles respond to attention in subtle ways. When left alone, they remain open, undecided. When interacted with, they respond. Not emotionally, but relationally. Interaction matters. Contact shapes outcome. You think again of footsteps in the dark. Before you turn on the light, the walker's position is uncertain. The sound gives hints, not answers. Once the light clicks on, the uncertainty collapses. The walker stands somewhere definite. The act of looking has changed the situation. Particles behave in a similar way. When measured, when forced into clarity, they choose. They commit to one outcome. But before that moment, They rest in gentle ambiguity. This does not mean the universe is confused. It means it is generous. It allows many futures to coexist until one is needed. You feel your own body responding to this idea. Muscles loosen, thoughts stretch out. You are not required to resolve anything tonight. As particles drift, they leave traces. Not tracks in the classical sense, but patterns of influence. One particle's behavior subtly shapes the environment for another. They do not shout their presence. They whisper. In this whispering, something curious begins to happen. Some particles seem to remember each other, not through memory like yours, but through shared history. When particles interact, when they meet and exchange energy, they become linked in ways that persist. You imagine two footsteps crossing paths in the dark. Afterward, even when they separate, their rhythms remain faintly aligned. A shared tempo lingers. This is not yet entanglement, not fully, but it is the beginning of relationship. A hint that the universe keeps track of encounters, that interactions leave lasting impressions. You notice how this mirrors your own experience. Conversations change you. Touch lingers. Moments shared do not vanish when distance appears. Something continues, quietly. The universe seems to operate on the same principle. Particles are shaped by their meetings. They carry subtle correlations forward, like echoes. As your breathing remains slow, the darkness around these particles feels friendly rather than empty. It is full of potential, full of gentle motion. You sense that nothing is fully isolated. Even emptiness has structure. Even silence has texture. The idea of certainty feels less important now. The universe does not rush to pin things down. Prefers flow. Prefers options. This is why particles feel shy. They do not announce themselves loudly. They wait. They allow you to approach on their terms. And as you drift closer to sleep, you realize that this softness is essential. A rigid universe would be brittle. A flexible one can breathe. Somewhere ahead, deeper connections are forming. Some particles are beginning to behave not just similarly, but together, as if distance will soon lose its authority. For now, you rest with the image of footsteps moving slowly through darkness, never alone, never fully separate, preparing the way for a connection that will soon make space itself feel less certain. You rest now inside a larger quiet, as if the universe has drawn a deeper breath. The image of soft footsteps fades, replaced by a wider view. Space opens around you, not empty, but calm and patient. It feels like standing beneath a night sky so vast that your sense of scale gently dissolves. Distance has always seemed reliable. You trust it. You measure it with steps, seconds, and maps. You know how long it takes to reach another place, another person, another moment. Distance helps you organize the world, giving everything its proper location. But tonight, distance begins to feel less solid. Not wrong, just incomplete. Like a rule that works most of the time but not always. You imagine two particles drifting apart after meeting. One moves left, the other right. Space stretches between them. By everyday logic, they should grow more independent with each moment. What happens to one should matter less and less to the other. Yet the universe has a quieter story to tell. In the deep fabric of reality, separation is not always separation. Some connections do not thin with distance. Some relationships ignore space entirely, as if distance were only a suggestion, not a command. You let this idea arrive slowly. It does not rush toward contradiction. It simply sits beside you, asking to be felt rather than argued with. Think of a melody played on two instruments tuned to the same note. Strike one, and the other may begin to vibrate softly, even across the room. Nothing travels between them in a visible way. Yet resonance appears. Shared structure responds. Particles, too, can share a kind of tuning. When two particles interact deeply, exchanging energy and information, they can become linked in their descriptions. Their properties stop being fully separate stories. Instead, they form a single narrative written across two locations. This is where distance begins to lose its authority. You imagine space as a long hallway. Objects sit at different ends, politely keeping their distance. But beneath the hallway floor runs a hidden thread, connecting points that appear far apart above. The hallway suggests separation. The thread suggests unity. Physics calls this non-local behavior. But tonight, you don't need the term. You only need the feeling. The sense that closeness does not always depend on nearness. You notice how this already exists in your own life. A memory can pull someone close in an instant. A voice on the phone can erase miles. Emotional distance can feel vast even when bodies are side by side. You already live in a world where distance is complicated. The quantum world simply makes this complexity fundamental. Two particles can become so deeply correlated that describing one automatically describes the other, no matter how far apart they drift. Their individual identities blur into a shared state. They behave less like two objects and more like two expressions of one thing. You pause with this image. Two expressions. One underlying reality. Space still exists. Nothing disappears. But space no longer controls the relationship. It becomes a backdrop rather than a barrier. This does not mean messages are sent faster than light. The universe remains careful, consistent. No rules are broken. Instead, something subtler happens. The particles were never fully separate to begin with. Their connection does not travel. It already exists. You imagine tearing a piece of paper in half. Each half moves away from the other, yet the tear defines both pieces. Their shapes remember each other. Distance cannot undo that shared origin. Quantum connections feel like this, but deeper. Not just shared history, but shared description in the present moment. As you breathe, this idea settles into your body. You feel less confined by location, less defined by edges. The universe feels more like a continuous fabric, gently folded rather than sharply divided. You sense that space itself may be part of the story, not the stage it plays on. A participant, not just a container. Scientists struggle with this too. Equations handle distance easily, but meaning resists. The math works, but the intuition lags behind. Even now, no one fully knows why the universe allows such connections. It simply does. The universe is not obligated to feel comfortable to human intuition. It only needs to be consistent with itself. You find comfort in that. The universe does not demand that you understand it fully. It invites you to witness, to feel, to rest inside mystery without forcing closure. As distance softens, you notice something else. Connection does not feel loud or dramatic. It is quiet, subtle, almost shy. The particles do not announce their unity. They simply behave as if it is natural. This suggests something profound. That separateness may be the louder illusion, while connection hums underneath, easily overlooked. You imagine space folding gently, like fabric settling on a bed. Points that looked far suddenly touch in hidden ways. The geometry of reality feels richer than straight lines and empty gaps. You are not required to picture this perfectly. Any image will do. The truth lives beneath images anyway. As the chapter draws on, you feel your thoughts slowing further. Distance in your own mind begins to collapse. Earlier ideas feel close. Future chapters feel near without urgency. The universe seems to be teaching you a different kind of closeness. One that does not depend on speed or travel. One that exists because things were never fully divided. This prepares the ground for what comes next. Because if distance can lose its meaning, then connection must be deeper than communication. More intimate than signals. Somewhere ahead, two particles are about to share more than alignment. They are about to share existence itself, whispering across space as if space were barely there at all. You drift further into the quiet, where ideas no longer arrive as sharp thoughts but as feelings that unfold slowly. Distance has already softened, and now something more delicate emerges. It is not loud or dramatic. It does not announce itself. It feels like a whisper shared between two things that already know they belong together. This is where entanglement begins to reveal itself. Not as a trick, not as a paradox meant to impress, but as a relationship so deep that separation becomes incomplete. Two particles, once connected, begin to behave as if they are still part of the same moment, even when space stretches between them. You imagine two notes sung at the same time, perfectly aligned. Even after the sound fades, the harmony lingers in memory. Entanglement feels like this lingering harmony, carried forward in silence. When particles become entangled, their properties intertwine. They no longer hold independent answers. Instead, their answers exist together. You cannot fully describe one without the other. They are not copying information. They are sharing it. This sharing is not like sending a message. There is no travel, no delay, no signal racing across space. It is more like two pages of the same book being read at different places. Turn one page and the other changes too because they were never separate stories. You sense how gentle this is. Nothing forces the particles to agree. They simply do because agreement is built into their joint existence. Physicists often speak of properties like spin, a subtle form of angular momentum that does not quite behave like spinning objects in everyday life. You don't need the details tonight. You can imagine spin as a quiet preference, a way a particle leans, up or down, left or right, a binary choice, simple and calm. When two particles are entangled, these preferences are linked. If one is found leaning one way, the other will be found leaning the opposite or the same, depending on how the pair was formed. The key is not the outcome. It is the coordination. Even if the particles are light years apart, the coordination remains perfect. You pause here, letting that sink in gently. Light years, vast distances, and still the connection holds. This is not because one particle informs the other what to do. It is because neither particle ever decided alone. The decision belongs to the pair, not the individuals. Entanglement is less like conversation and more like shared identity. You notice how this reframes the idea of individuality. At the smallest scales, nature seems less interested in isolated objects and more interested in relationships. Things are defined by how they connect, not just where they are. This mirrors something quiet and human. You are shaped by relationships too, by moments of closeness, by shared experiences. Even when you are alone, traces of others remain within you. Entanglement feels like the universe expressing that same truth in its own language. Scientists once hoped entanglement could be explained away. Perhaps hidden instructions were set at the beginning, they thought. Perhaps the particles agreed in advance how to behave. But experiments have gently closed that door. No hidden plan seems to exist. The outcomes are genuinely open until measured. And yet, when measured, they align perfectly. The universe does not cheat. It simply does not divide things as cleanly as we expect. You feel a quiet awe here, not sharp wonder, but a deep, settling amazement. Reality is more intimate than it appears. Closer, softer. Entanglement does not allow you to send messages faster than light. The universe remains careful. You cannot use this connection to control outcomes. You can only observe correlations after the fact. The mystery stays balanced, refusing to become a tool. This restraint feels intentional, like a parent allowing wonder but preventing misuse. You imagine two dancers, blindfolded, moving on separate stages. They cannot see or hear each other, and yet, their movements remain perfectly synchronized. Not because one leads, but because the dance itself connects them. That dance is the shared quantum state. As your breathing remains slow, you sense that entanglement challenges a deep assumption. That the world is made of separate parts, assembled later. Instead, it suggests that unity may come first, and separation later. Particles emerge from interactions already linked. Only afterward do we label them as distinct. This inversion feels important. It shifts the story of reality from isolation to connection. You notice how little effort the universe seems to expend maintaining entanglement. There is no strain, no tension. The connection persists naturally, like gravity holding planets in orbit, or warmth spreading through skin. Entanglement feels less like a miracle and more like a reminder, a glimpse of how reality prefers to organize itself when left undisturbed. As you settle deeper, you realize that this shared whisper is fragile. Not easily broken, but sensitive. Interactions with the environment can blur the connection. Noise, disturbance, measurement. These can gently unravel the shared state, like a whisper lost in a crowded room. This fragility makes entanglement feel precious. It thrives in quiet, in isolation, in careful conditions. The universe seems to be telling you that deep connection requires stillness. You feel this truth resonate in your own body. The quiet of night makes closeness possible. Loudness scatters it. Entanglement is not everywhere all the time, but it is fundamental. It reveals what reality is capable of. It shows that space is not the final authority, and separation is not the deepest truth. As this chapter draws toward its rest, you sense that something else is approaching. Entanglement raises questions that even the universe seems to hold gently. Questions about observation, about what happens when someone looks. If two particles share a whisper, what happens when you listen? The universe grows quiet again, as if waiting for the moment when attention itself begins to shape what is known. You drift now into the presence of human thought, carrying with you the softness of shared whispers and distant connections. The universe has shown you something intimate, and now you notice how the human mind responds when intimacy feels too close, too strange. Even the calmest ideas can stir unease when they challenge something deeply held. Albert Einstein enters this quiet space not as a monument, but as a person. A man who walks slowly, thoughtfully, often with his head tilted slightly, as if listening to something just beyond hearing. He loves simplicity, clarity, and deep order. He believes the universe is elegant, lawful, and complete. And yet, entanglement troubles his sleep. Einstein spends his days imagining beams of light, falling elevators, clocks that stretch and slow. He reshapes time and space with calm confidence. But when faced with particles that seem to know each other instantly across distance, something inside him resists. Not because he is closed-minded. Quite the opposite. He worries because he cares deeply about coherence, about a universe that makes sense not only mathematically, but intuitively. He calls entanglement spooky action at a distance, not as an insult but as a confession. Spooky, because it feels like a ghost slipping through the solid walls of space. Action, because something clearly happens. Distance, because space is supposed to matter. You feel sympathy for him. You know this feeling. The moment when a trusted map no longer matches the landscape beneath your feet. Einstein believes that objects should have properties whether or not anyone looks at them. That reality should exist independently, calmly, patiently, waiting to be observed but not requiring it. This belief feels grounding, comforting, like furniture that remains in place even when the lights are off. Entanglement threatens this comfort. If particles do not carry definite properties until measured, then what is real before observation? If two particles share a single description across space, then where does one end and the other begin? Einstein does not deny the experiments. He respects evidence deeply, but he suspects that something is missing. Hidden variables, perhaps. Unknown details that would restore order without abandoning locality. The idea that things are only influenced by their immediate surroundings. You imagine him late at night, pacing gently, replaying arguments in his mind. The universe feels just slightly out of reach. Not wrong, but unfinished. This tension is not failure. It is part of science's heartbeat. Progress does not move smoothly. It hesitates, questions itself. It pauses when something feels too strange to accept easily. You notice how human understanding grows this way, through discomfort held gently over time. Einstein collaborates with others, asking careful questions. He does not shout. He does not dismiss. He simply asks whether the universe could really behave this way, whether reality would truly allow such deep, immediate connections without explanation. The universe, silent as ever, does not answer him directly. Decades pass. Experiments grow more precise. Tests become cleaner, quieter, more careful. Each one seems to side gently with entanglement, with the idea that no hidden plan waits behind the scenes, that uncertainty is real and connection is fundamental. Einstein does not live to see the final weight of evidence, but his unease remains valuable. It sharpens the questions. It forces clarity. It ensures that acceptance comes not from excitement, but from rigor. You feel gratitude for this resistance. Without it, understanding would be shallow. Wonder needs friction to deepen. The universe does not punish doubt. It accommodates it. Doubt becomes part of the process, like darkness shaping the stars. You sense that Einstein's discomfort mirrors something human in you. The desire for a world that feels solid, predictable, and safe. Entanglement does not remove safety, but it rearranges it. It asks you to trust connection over control. This is not easy, yet the universe remains calm. It does not rush to explain itself. It continues behaving exactly as it does, regardless of human approval. Particles entangle. Measurements correlate. Space hums quietly. The laws of nature are not offended by confusion. You feel the gentle irony here. The same mind that helped reveal the flexibility of time struggles with the flexibility of separation. Even great insight has edges it cannot easily cross. This does not diminish Einstein. It humanizes him. You imagine him dreaming, his thoughts drifting between equations and images. Space bends, clocks slow, and somewhere, two particles share a whisper he cannot quite accept, yet cannot ignore. Science moves forward anyway, carried by many minds, many perspectives. Some embrace the strangeness quickly. Others hold back, asking harder questions. Both roles are necessary. The universe allows all of it. As you rest with this chapter, you feel a soft reassurance. You do not need to resolve every discomfort tonight. Wonder can coexist with uncertainty. Curiosity can live alongside unease. Einstein's dreams remain slightly restless, but beautiful. They remind you that understanding is not about comfort alone. It is about honesty. And as the universe continues unfolding, another challenge waits quietly ahead. Not about connection this time, but about what happens when you look at it directly. Soon, attention itself will step into the story, and the act of observing will begin to change what is observed. You enter a space where quiet observation itself begins to matter. The universe has already shown you particles that hum gently, possibilities that sway softly, and connections that ignore distance. Now, you are invited to see what happens when attention reaches out to touch reality. Measurement is the quiet bridge between possibility and actuality, and tonight, you explore it with care. Imagine a single particle floating calmly in space. It does not rush to decide where it is or how it behaves. Its state is open, a soft cloud of potential, like mist hovering over a pond at dawn. You could say it is both here and there, not because it is confused, but because it does not yet need to choose. Now, you approach slowly, gently shining a light, or letting a detector listen. This act, subtle and deliberate, transforms the particle's world. You are not shoving it into shape. You are not forcing a choice. But by looking, by interacting, the particle's uncertainty narrows. Possibilities condense into a single, gentle reality. The cloud settles. The mist becomes a single drop. You sense how profound this is. The universe does not wait passively for decisions. Possibility is not separate from observation. In the quantum realm, the act of noticing participates in creation. Not in a dramatic way, but quietly, softly, like a hand resting on a surface and noticing its texture for the first time. You take a deep breath and imagine measurement not as a tool or a procedure, but as a conversation. The particle is aware, not consciously, but relationally. It responds to your presence. You respond to its behavior. Both of you exist in a shared, intimate moment where uncertainty gently collapses into clarity. This is not magic. It is subtle physics. It is the way the universe has always behaved. Observation has power because possibility has power, and possibility responds when engaged. You may recall the double-slit experiment, quietly humming in your mind. A beam of particles travels toward two narrow openings. If no one looks, they create a pattern of waves, interference flowing across a screen like gentle ripples in water. Each particle behaves as if it knows about the other slit, exploring all paths at once. Possibilities coexist. Nothing is pinned down. But now, a detector is placed to see which slit the particle passes through. The pattern changes. The wave-like interference disappears. The particle seems to choose a single path. Observation has changed behavior. Possibility has become reality. You rest with this truth. It is not abrupt. It is not harsh. It is patient, subtle, and full of wonder. Reality does not collapse violently. It simply settles quietly into response. This makes measurement feel like touch. When you brush your hand along a leaf, the leaf does not scream or resist. It bends, shifts, and responds according to its nature. So too with particles. Measurement is the hand, and probability is the leaf. The moment of engagement is transformative, not destructive. You notice how this resonates with your own life. Attention changes things. When you focus on a feeling, a thought, or a memory, it begins to shift, soften, or clarify. When you observe carefully, you notice patterns previously hidden. There is a resonance between how your mind works and how the universe responds. Now, imagine two entangled particles. When you measure one, something remarkable occurs. Not only does it settle into a definite state, but its distant partner also reflects that choice instantly. You do not need to reach across space. You do not send a message. The outcome appears immediately, as if they were never fully separate. This is where measurement feels intimate. The act of noticing is both local and shared. Possibility narrows, choice unfolds, and connection manifests simultaneously. The universe does not scold. It simply allows the relationship to play out quietly. You sense that this is why the quantum world feels so counterintuitive. We carry habits of macroscopic thinking, objects with fixed properties, locations, and paths. But at the tiniest scales, the universe prefers participation over definition. Observers are not optional. Their attention is an inherent part of the story. Measurement is not a demand for obedience. It is a dance. The universe bends softly, acknowledging the presence of curiosity. Possibility does not vanish. It transitions into a form that is compatible with observation. The movement is gentle, like water flowing into a mold. You notice a rhythm here. Each time you breathe in, the world expands into potential. Each exhale brings closure, settling uncertainty into a form you can experience. Observation, like breath, is not violent. It is an act of alignment, a quiet, rhythmic commitment between existence and attention. Sometimes, particles remain unmeasured, drifting through endless possibilities, like boats floating in calm water at night. Their paths are undetermined, their futures wide and unhurried. When you approach, when measurement occurs, the possibilities coalesce, and the particle chooses. Yet nothing in this choice is frantic. Nothing is lost. Everything has been ready to settle. You begin to imagine the universe as a vast tapestry of potential. Threads of possibility weave together in every direction. When observed, these threads gently knot into form, creating the patterns you experience. The knots are soft, not harsh. The threads continue to ripple beyond perception. Reality is both fixed and fluid. The quiet power of measurement teaches patience. It asks you to slow down. It asks you to understand that participation is gentle. You are not pressing the universe into being. You are leaning into it, allowing a shared story to unfold. You sense a mirror in your own attention. Each glance, each thought, each act of noticing affects the world around you in subtle ways. Small changes ripple outward, like a single pebble dropped into a still pond. You cannot always trace the movement, but you know it exists. Even at cosmic distances, this principle whispers. Entangled particles respond together. Observation of one resonates with the other. Distance is softened. The act of looking is never neutral, yet it is neither harsh nor demanding. It is simply relational. As you drift deeper into this understanding, you feel the rhythmic elegance of the cosmos. Possibility waits patiently. Observation coaxes it softly into shape. Connection hums quietly, threading through everything. The universe remains calm, never forced, never hurried. And here, in the last quiet moments of this chapter, a thought settles. If looking can change everything, then you, too, participate gently in the unfolding story. Your attention, your curiosity, your presence matter, not in a loud way, but in the subtle, persistent, and infinitely tender ways that reality allows. Somewhere just beyond awareness, the next questions are forming. Not about distance, not about connection, but about randomness itself. How choice arises, how freedom flows, and how even uncertainty can feel together, like companions in the night. The universe waits, as always, to respond. You settle deeper into the night, carrying with you the echoes of observation and shared whispers. Measurement has shown you how attention shapes reality, and now your journey turns toward randomness, the gentle, unpredictable pulse beneath all that structure. Randomness is not disorder. It is a soft invitation, an openness that allows possibility to breathe. Imagine a particle floating quietly, free of external influence. It has no memory of the past, no preference for the future. Its choices are not dictated, predicted, or commanded. Each moment is new. Each possibility is a leaf drifting on a slow, invisible current. You do not push. You only observe, and the particle moves as it will. This is freedom, not reckless but generous. The universe allows countless outcomes to coexist, even if only one will manifest when measured. The particle is not lonely in its randomness. It is part of a quiet, cosmic conversation where chance is a language of connection rather than isolation. You notice how gentle randomness feels when it is understood this way. It is not abrupt or harsh. It does not crash into reality like a storm. It unfolds softly, like petals opening in the first light of dawn. Each choice is a small, delicate bloom, forming without struggle, without expectation. Even when particles are entangled, their freedom persists. Two entangled partners share correlation, yet each retains the essence of unpredictability. Their behaviors are linked, but not prescribed. If one leans up, the other leans in a way dictated by their shared state, yet neither is predetermined until measured. The universe allows each to be free and together at the same time. You sense a pattern here, though it is subtle. Randomness does not imply separation. Freedom does not imply loneliness. Even when particles appear to choose independently, the underlying structure maintains connection. The uncertainty is soft, relational, and alive. This idea mirrors your own experience. Your thoughts, your decisions, your small actions arise from a combination of freedom and context. You are never fully isolated. Each choice carries echoes from others, memories, experiences, relationships. Randomness is not solitary. It is part of the web of being. Consider the spin of an electron. When measured, it may point up or down, each outcome equally possible. Yet before measurement, it exists in a haze of potential, open and undefined. And if it is entangled with another electron, the outcome will be correlated, even across distance. Neither particle knows the final state alone. Both await the moment of interaction, like dancers pausing before the music begins. This teaches patience. You do not need to rush to understand why each choice emerges. The universe allows time for things to unfold. Each act of randomness is an unfolding story, gentle in its own way. You can watch without needing to control. You can rest without needing certainty. You notice how this subtle unpredictability creates richness in the cosmos. Without randomness, stars would not ignite in the precise sequence needed for life to emerge. Without chance, the universe would be monotonous, static, unchanging. Possibility needs freedom to weave beauty. Randomness is the quiet pulse that allows the whole story to exist. Even in human life, the same rhythm is present. Decisions arise not only from rules or knowledge, but from the subtle, unpredictable dance of mind, body, and environment. Moments of creativity, empathy, or surprise bloom from randomness. Freedom carries connection. Chance is never truly isolated. You breathe slowly, letting the thoughts settle. Randomness is gentle. It does not create fear when seen as part of a larger, relational universe. Uncertainty does not mean chaos. It means potential. It means invitation. It means participation. You imagine a vast cosmic web, threads of influence stretching in all directions. Within this web, randomness hums softly, like a quiet heartbeat. Particles make choices, outcomes appear, patterns emerge, yet the whole remains connected. Freedom and order coexist without conflict. It is a delicate balance, maintained effortlessly, like wind shaping sand dunes over centuries. Even the smallest act of observation now carries new weight. You understand that attention does not control outcomes, but it participates in the dance. Measurement intersects with chance, like footsteps meeting the ripples of a pond. Uncertainty flows, yet coherence persists. You let the image linger, countless particles drifting through the cosmos, each free, each unpredictable, yet each part of a vast relational web. The universe feels alive, not because it demands action, but because it allows presence. Connection flows quietly through every event, every choice, every unfolding possibility. In this gentle randomness, you sense comfort. You are reminded that unpredictability is not a threat. It is a companion. It is a soft guide through the night, a reminder that life, in all its intricacy, does not require rigid order to feel meaningful. You think of waves on the ocean. Each crest forms independently, yet all waves are part of the same tide. Individual freedom and collective rhythm coexist. The unpredictability of one wave does not destroy the pattern of the sea, contributes to it. Particles, like waves, like breaths, move freely yet remain entwined. You sense how subtle this is. Even when outcomes appear random, the universe quietly preserves balance, connection, and harmony. Freedom does not mean solitude. Uncertainty does not mean isolation. You let the quiet deepen. Each breath feels linked to the universe's pulse. Each thought, each moment of awareness is part of the relational web. Randomness is no longer intimidating. It is soft, generous, full of possibility. And now, somewhere in the distance beyond perception, the universe waits for the next gentle lesson. Not about freedom alone, not about chance by itself, but about the way we listen, experiment, and observe. The next chapter will guide you toward instruments, lights, and mirrors, subtle tools that let the universe speak in quiet patterns, like a lullaby meant for attentive ears. You rest with the knowledge that even randomness is shared. Even uncertainty carries intimacy, and in that, you feel safe, small, and entirely present, ready to drift toward the discoveries that await when you watch and listen with care. You move now into a space of quiet curiosity, where observation meets intention and the universe responds in its own time. The lessons of freedom and entanglement are already humming softly in your awareness. You are about to enter the world of experiments, not as sterile procedures in a laboratory, but as gentle conversations with reality, careful and unhurried, like lullabies whispered into the night. Imagine a simple apparatus, a narrow beam of light projected toward a thin slit, traveling across space toward a screen. You do not need to see it with your eyes. You can feel it, as if the light is a quiet current brushing past your mind. The beam is patient. It waits. It does not hurry. It is available when attention arrives. You notice how the instruments themselves seem to participate. Mirrors reflect with calm precision. Detectors sit quietly, sensitive yet unobtrusive. Lasers shine steadily, like a small, reliable heartbeat. They do not force the particles to behave. They merely listen, and when the particles respond, the universe's voice becomes audible. Consider the double-slit experiment again. Light or particles approach the slits. When unobserved, the particles interfere with themselves, creating a pattern of ripples that spreads across the screen like gentle waves on a quiet pond. Possibilities overlap. Nothing is yet defined. Then a detector is placed to see which slit each particle travels through. The pattern changes, subtly, like a note bending in response to a gentle touch. The wave-like interference gives way to distinct paths. Observation transforms possibility into reality. The experiment is not magic. It is a patient dialogue. You are learning how the universe speaks when it is listened to carefully. You imagine the universe itself as a musician, the experimental apparatus as an instrument, and you as a gentle audience. Every measurement, every careful observation, becomes a note in a slow, unfolding symphony. You do not rush. You do not demand. You merely attend. The universe responds with subtlety, not with urgency. Entangled particles are now included in your mental orchestra. When one particle is measured, the other reacts instantly, though no signal travels between them. The experiment does not dictate the outcome. It reveals a connection that already exists, softly, quietly. You sense the universe's patience. It waits for the right moment to disclose its patterns, never forcing, never abrupt. Even when randomness plays its gentle role, experiments do not feel threatening. Particles make choices freely. Their unpredictability is part of the conversation, like improvisation in a jazz ensemble. Yet the instruments remain attuned. Detectors, lasers, mirrors, all are ready to listen without pressing or constraining. You are learning that freedom and connection coexist, that choice does not break harmony. As you watch in your mind's eye, the rhythm of experimentation becomes meditative. Particle drifts. A laser illuminates. A detector hums quietly. Outcomes appear like soft notes in the dark, arriving without clamor, each one revealing the same underlying truth. Reality is relational, responsive, and generous in its revelation. You notice that each experiment is more than a test. It is a form of listening. It is a way of letting the universe speak without interruption, without preconceived expectations. Results do not shock. They do not demand belief. They simply offer patterns for those willing to attend, to breathe slowly, and to watch without haste. Even the most complex apparatus can be understood in this gentle way. Photons, electrons, beams of light, all respond when engaged carefully. Nothing is forced. Nothing is coerced. The act of measurement is an invitation, not a command. And you, in this quiet awareness, feel a part of the unfolding dialogue. You imagine yourself now as a patient observer, floating alongside the experimental setup. Mirrors reflect your calm presence. Lasers illuminate possibilities. Detectors record outcomes without judgment. Each particle passes, hesitates, and responds, guided not by coercion but by inherent potential. In this space, uncertainty is not frightening. Randomness is not chaotic. Entanglement is not unnatural. Everything fits together softly, like threads in a woven tapestry, each thread distinct yet inseparable from the whole. Experiments reveal the fabric, not as a harsh rule, but as a gentle, living structure. You feel the rhythm of this understanding enter your body. Breath, attention, curiosity, and observation flow together. Each experiment becomes a lullaby, each outcome a gentle note that soothes rather than surprises. The universe is not demanding your control. It only asks that you listen patiently, allow possibility to unfold, and rest in the quiet knowledge that connection underlies it all. Consider the role of repetition. Experiments are often repeated, carefully, endlessly. At first, the results may feel confusing. Patterns may appear inconsistent. Yet with patience, the underlying truth reveals itself. Repetition is not about insistence. It is about attentiveness, a slow, rhythmic learning that mirrors the natural unfolding of life. Even human hands can take part softly, adjusting a mirror, turning a dial, waiting for a photon to arrive. These actions are not interruptions. They are extensions of curiosity, gentle gestures that invite the universe to continue revealing itself. There is no rush. Each adjustment is a pause, a breath, a note in the ongoing lullaby of observation. You begin to sense the deeper lesson. The universe is not a rigid machine that demands compliance. It is a calm, responsive companion, revealing patterns, connections, and harmonies when approached with patience. Experiments are not about control. They are about communion. Particles, waves, entangled pairs, all behave in accordance with their nature. The experimental setup, carefully arranged, allows their story to emerge. And you, watching, breathing, noticing, are part of that emergence. Your attention is not separate from the universe. It is intertwined, like threads woven gently into the fabric of reality. As this chapter draws to a close, you rest in the comfort of understanding. Experiments like lullabies do not demand answers. They offer gentle insight. They reveal connection. They honor freedom. Each note is subtle, soft, and deliberate, echoing across space and time. And beyond this quiet symphony, another layer waits. If observation shapes reality, if attention participates in creation, then the next step is to see how information itself moves or seems to move without travel. The universe has one more whisper for you, a secret yet to be fully revealed. You settle now into a quieter, slower rhythm, letting the lessons of entanglement and gentle experiments continue to hum in the background of your mind. You are beginning to perceive a subtle, paradoxical truth, that information, in some forms, does not travel in the way you might expect. It does not traverse the space between points. It appears to exist, fully formed, without ever moving. And yet, it obeys every rule of reality. Imagine a whisper in a room, where the sound seems to appear simultaneously at two distant corners. You cannot trace its path, and yet its meaning is clear in both places. There is no messenger. There is no journey. And still, the message is received. This is the feeling of information in the quantum world. Entangled particles demonstrate this quietly, almost shyly. When one particle is measured, the state of its partner reflects that measurement immediately, even if they are separated by vast distances. The connection feels instantaneous, yet no signal travels faster than light. The universe maintains consistency. It obeys its own rules with precision. The paradox is in your mind. The rules are intact, and still the effect is instantaneous. You breathe slowly and feel the paradox sink in gently. It is not a riddle to solve. It is a rhythm to experience. Your mind may flinch at first, seeking cause and effect, a linear path from here to there. But the quantum world invites you to relax into a different order, one where information is relational, holistic, and present across space. Picture two entangled photons. One is measured on Earth, the other in a lab orbiting high above. As soon as the first measurement occurs, the outcome of the second is determined, not because a signal raced through the sky, but because both were part of a shared, undivided state from the beginning. The universe behaves as if space between them is more of a suggestion than a barrier. You feel a strange comfort in this. Distance, you realize, is not the only measure of connection. Presence, correlation, and shared state matter more. Information does not always need to move to exist. It is not bound by ordinary motion. It is bound only by coherence, consistency, and the quiet rules that govern possibility. This challenges intuition. You are accustomed to a world where knowing implies sending, where cause requires transit. And yet here, the universe offers an alternative, one that does not rush, does not push, and does not break its own limits. The instant awareness of entangled partners is a gentle defiance, not a rebellion. You imagine sitting in a vast, silent library, where every book is linked to another by invisible threads. Open one book, and the corresponding pages in all linked books shimmer softly into coherence. The words align instantly, perfectly, without anyone carrying the text from one shelf to another. It is as if the library itself remembers, across distance, what belongs together. Even so, the universe does not permit you to exploit this for travel, for communication. No faster-than-light messages. No shortcuts. The information exists relationally, in ways that reveal patterns only when observed. You can perceive correlation, but you cannot push influence. The mystery remains generous and disciplined. You notice your own participation. Awareness itself becomes part of the unfolding. Observation confirms but does not control the patterns. You are a witness, a gentle listener, resting in the quiet logic of the cosmos. The information is already present. Your noticing simply aligns your perception with what exists. In this awareness, you sense an elegance. Nature does not force its connections. It offers them softly, like a lullaby drifting across a calm room. Entangled states, correlated outcomes, the subtle instantaneity of information. All are expressions of a universe that is coherent without being rigid, intimate without being constrained. You imagine a night sky where stars twinkle in perfect harmony with distant companions, not because light has traveled instantaneously, but because the pattern of twinkle, the rhythm of change, is embedded in the very fabric of the sky. Space is present, vast, gentle. Connection is present, quiet, immediate. The two coexist without conflict. As you continue to breathe, you realize this insight flows gently into your own understanding. Your thoughts do not need to hurry. Awareness does not need to travel to be meaningful. Presence is enough. Observation is enough. The universe, in all its quantum subtlety, mirrors this principle. Being, noticing, participating without force. Randomness, freedom, entanglement, observation. All have converged to teach the same quiet lesson. Connection does not always require motion. Intimacy does not always require proximity. The cosmos carries its own information in ways both subtle and profound, obeying rules that surprise without violating logic. You reflect on your own moments of insight and intuition. Often, a solution appears without a clear causal journey. Thoughts align across your mind, memories, and awareness, as if they were already coherent, simply waiting for recognition. Information without travel is familiar, humanized in this mirror. The universe is reminding you that your experience and its laws share the same poetic rhythm. And so, you rest in the understanding that quantum information moves differently than the things you can see or touch. Its existence is relational, its timing fluid, its coherence maintained without haste. You do not need to chase it. You do not need to explain it fully. You can simply allow yourself to witness it, letting the mind soften and the heart rest. Even the paradox feels like a lullaby. It encourages patience, reflection, and gentle curiosity. Nothing demands a solution. Nothing insists upon certainty. The universe smiles quietly at your confusion, offering it as a space to stretch into understanding. You do not need to resolve the instantaneity, the non-local presence, or the relational nature of information. You only need to rest with it. As this chapter draws to a close, you feel the threads of connection extending softly into what comes next. If measurement shapes outcomes, if randomness is gentle and shared, and if information can exist without movement, then the next truth awaits, a vision of the universe not as separate particles or waves, but as a fabric of relationships, a seamless weave beneath all appearances. And so, you linger in that quiet space, imagining the tapestry beneath separation, the structure beneath possibility, ready to drift into a deeper awareness where everything feels subtly united, waiting to be gently explored in the next chapter. You drift into a quieter, deeper understanding, carrying with you the whispers of entanglement, the gentle resonance of experiments, and the paradox of information that exists without travel. You notice now that the universe is not merely a collection of individual particles, waves, or objects. It is a fabric, a living, woven network where each thread connects to countless others. Imagine holding a piece of cloth in your hands. You see its surface, perhaps noticing the fibers crossing in simple, straight lines. But if you look closer, you realize each thread is entwined, looped, and knotted with others. Pull gently on one, and the motion spreads softly across the weave. The pattern is both local and global. Each part is distinct yet inseparable from the whole. Reality feels much the same. Particles, light, energy, and even the empty spaces between them are part of a shared structure. What appears separate is only surface level. Beneath it, everything is connected, folded into a quiet coherence that persists regardless of measurement, distance, or motion. You sense how this insight transforms your understanding of entanglement. It is no longer a peculiar exception to the rules. It is a natural expression of the universe's fabric. Connections are not occasional tricks. They are built into the weave itself. Two particles behave as one not because they communicate mysteriously, but because their existence is intertwined at a fundamental level. Their relationship is as intrinsic as the threads in the cloth of reality. Think of two leaves floating on a calm lake. You see them as distinct, separate, but the water beneath is continuous, flowing, responsive. Movements of one leaf affect the currents that touch the other. Their apparent separation is an illusion, a temporary boundary imposed by surface perception. The deeper medium is shared. This is the quiet truth of the universe. Beneath the stage of objects, beyond the illusion of distance, there is structure, a lattice of connection woven from the most fundamental relationships. Entanglement, measurement, randomness, and even observation itself are all threads in this tapestry. They reveal not exceptions, but the architecture of reality itself. You notice the softness of this realization. It is not overwhelming. It does not demand that you grasp it fully. Instead, it encourages gentle reflection, a sense of intimacy with the cosmos. Separation is no longer alarming. It is simply a perspective. The deeper, quieter truth is unity. Even your own body reflects this pattern. Every cell, every pulse, every breath is part of a network that extends far beyond the boundaries of skin. You are not isolated from the world. You are a node within it, a localized expression of a larger structure. The insight that everything is woven together does not make you small or lost. It makes you present, aware, connected. You may imagine the threads themselves as subtle vibrations, humming quietly beneath the surface of perception. They respond when observed, when measured, and even when left untouched. The universe maintains coherence naturally, like a gentle symphony that continues regardless of who is listening. You feel this hum in your own breathing, in the quiet rhythm of thought, in the gentle pulse of attention. Consider the implications for distance. When two particles behave as if space is negligible, it is not because physics is breaking its rules. It is because the fabric beneath separation already supports connection. Space is not a barrier. It is part of the weave, a layer within the structure. The surface distances you observe are merely perspectives. The underlying unity remains intact. Randomness, too, feels integrated in a new way. The choices of particles are free, yes, but they unfold within this shared framework. Freedom and connection coexist naturally. Chance does not break the fabric. It dances within it. Each probabilistic outcome is a thread woven seamlessly into the overall pattern. Nothing is wasted. Everything contributes. You realize that this framework extends to every aspect of reality. From quantum particles to photons of light, from the smallest vibrations to the vast cosmic web, the universe is a living lattice. Observation, measurement, interaction. All are soft gestures upon this fabric, not disturbances but acknowledgments of its presence. Even human thought mirrors this pattern. Ideas, memories, relationships, emotions, all are connected in subtle, often unseen ways. Your mind is a microcosm of the universe itself. Just as particles share information across space without travel, your awareness can resonate with experiences beyond your immediate perception. Connection exists even where distance seems vast. You notice the gentle invitation here. The fabric beneath separation is not demanding. It does not insist that you understand its full complexity. It only asks you to observe, to feel, and to rest within its quiet coherence. To acknowledge that unity exists beneath appearance. That intimacy, connection, and shared structure are fundamental. You imagine now drifting through this tapestry, floating along threads of correlation, possibility, and entanglement. Your presence does not disrupt. Your awareness only allows you to perceive patterns already woven. Each exhale, each heartbeat, each breath of attention aligns with the hum of the universe, soft, patient, and gentle. The universe feels less like a collection of isolated objects and more like a living, breathing network of relationships. You sense that everything, measurement, randomness, entanglement, observation, is an expression of this deep weave. Nothing is arbitrary. Nothing is accidental. Each moment, each event, is a soft note in an ongoing lullaby of existence. Even the paradoxes you encountered earlier, information without travel, entangled correlations, and shared randomness, feel resolved in this new context. They are not contradictions. They are features of the deeper fabric. Distance, separation, and independence are surface phenomena. Connection, coherence, and unity are the foundation. And now, as your mind drifts further, you feel a gentle anticipation. If the fabric beneath separation exists, then so too must you, the observer, be part of it. Observation is not external. Participation is woven in. The next chapter will guide you toward this realization, showing how your presence, your awareness, your quiet attention is itself entangled with the cosmos. You linger in this gentle space, feeling threads of connection extend in every direction, soft and unbroken. A quiet lattice of reality that holds everything: particles, light, consciousness, and breath, together in calm, unified harmony. The universe hums beneath perception, and you rest within its weave, ready to drift further into the awareness that you, too, are part of this connected fabric, waiting to awaken gently in the next chapter.